everyone. I'm so excited to share this amazing episode with you. I have my good friend Mara Elaine back again. I wanted to talk to her about this Samhain, thinning of the veil, quote, Halloween, portal, and talk about magical herbs. So that's what we're going to be really getting into today. And I feel like it's very deep, I think, within our psyches, this transition into the darkness, into winter, and it brings up the availability to explore different, unique parts of ourselves. And I feel like it's translated in modern culture to women being super excited for like pumpkin spice lattes and a sweater. Like that's like the modern translation, but in its depths, like there's something there. There is something to that, like, yes, there's a transition and I can express and like invite in a deeper and different part of myself. So we'll be talking about this, and we'll be talking the first half about this Samhain Celtic tradition, and then the fact that it also has been seen and recognized in cultures around the world, this thinning of the veil timing. And then the second half, we're going to go into magical herbs and how they can help you enhance and deepen this otherworldly experience, specifically this timing. And so we're going to be giving our top 5 most magical herbs, and we don't know what each other's going to say. So it'll be really fun. I like making things somewhat spontaneous. So anyways, I'm just so happy to have you back, Mara, and you know that I just love and adore you.
Thank you, Bridget. I'm delighted, absolutely delighted to come into this this time of year and to talk about these practices and just all that's kind of alive right now with you. We're gonna have some fun, I think.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into it. So what is Samhain? Because some people might not know it by that name. I mean, everyone knows Halloween, but like, what is Samhain? And that is actually where Halloween really originated. But can you tell us about it?
Yeah, well, I think Samhain's roots really began here in Ireland, actually, and it's a deep tradition that was really appropriated in and brought across by the Irish settlers to the Americas, which basically the customs around Samhain translated into the Halloween that is celebrated commercially, particularly in the States. In that in your face overdone festival that it is.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still definitely trace elements of the ritual purposes of true Samhain interwoven, but definitely distorted. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of attribution to different places on the land here in Ireland that are the origin or the birthplace of Samhain itself.
Whoa.
And yes, and yeah, there's a lot around that, and there's a lot of different goddesses attached to those places as well. But Samhain essentially means it's if you broke it down, it's Samhain, but there's the two parts of it actually correlate to end of summer. So it would have been the delineation from summer and into the winter period. So it was that marking point of the change of the seasons and really coming into the darker part of the year and the waning of the light and the celebration of all that had been harvested, and a lot of different rituals around that thinning, waning light. And so that's kind of the root of the word, really. I'm not a practicing pagan rituals so much. I kind of have my own rituals, but from what I can gather, there's a lot of different rituals that would be celebrated around astrological or astronomical Samhain, which is actually not the 31st. I believe it's different every year. And this year, I believe it's on the 6th of November, going into the 7th of November, depending on where you are. So, that astronomical alignment was tracked then in the landscape in Ireland. And so certain sites or burial chambers or tombs would be aligned with the rising sun on astronomical Samhain. And the sun would penetrate in through the chamber in some of these places. And one of them I was actually just at yesterday, the Hill of Tara, which is one of our most famous royal complex sites, and one of the mounds, the mound of the hostages, is actually aligned to that first rising sun of astronomical Samhain. So yeah, so there's so much in it over here, and yeah, that's the start of that. But yeah, there's a few other sites I'd love to speak to, because they're kind of part of that story as well.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Every time I talk to you, I need a tissue because my eyes start watering because I feel things so deeply, when we start connecting
Yeah.
and I feel those sights. That's amazing. Because I actually don't know that much. Now that I'm hearing you speak, I'm like, I don't know that much about the traditions of Ireland and the, traditions of the Celts, like in this category. I know a lot more actually about the Day of the Dead and like the processes of like the ancestors, even in the Asian cultures, and like how they utilize this time, to really work with the ancestors, to work with the dead, and to be in that honoring process. So how do they use this timing, like in the Samhain tradition?
Right. Well, if you think about, like, these sites are pre-Celt, and I'm learning and deepening into really the true origins of all of the evidence that's found there. It was, pre-Celt, pre-Christian, and then layers built upon through successive generations, obviously. So this is going way back and beyond. But Samhain then, would have been, and I love that you speak to the All Souls Day, and the Dia de los Muertos, I believe, the
Mm-hmm.
Spanish that celebrate, because Ireland has that tradition as well, with the Christian overlay. When the Christian overlay came in and kind of brought in the All Souls Day and All Saints Day on the 1st of November and the 2nd of November, it was kind of that way, I feel, of probably trying to tone down or suppress
Yeah.
the more pagan origins and power that is pulsing through at that time.
Yeah.
Um, but nevertheless, they still had, in the Christian tradition, that ritual of honoring our ancestors and the saints, and that tradition. So that's interwoven with it, and they kind of existed. They exist side by side with one another. So most definitely, we're around the world, we're seeing all of these indigenous cultures really recognizing this time of liminality,
Mm.
and this place of really potent power for harnessing to sustain us through the winter, really,
Mm.
on all the levels, biologically, physically, through the foods, and spiritually, all of the levels. And so that really is interwoven and interlinked throughout the world, for sure. But Samhain itself is really that, the roots of that, and the Halloween traditions that have been taken into other cultures begins here in Ireland. um, so I think some of the traditions that, fire was huge, bonfires, and invoking the goddess through the use of fire, and that rituals, whatever rituals were done in those times, which we don't totally know about, right? That was the harnessing of the light and the fire, and really deepening into that for, again, the winter time again. And it was also a time, I would say, that a lot of people would have gathered for divination and divining and working with the other world, because the veil was so thin,
Yeah.
and we, the presence of spirit was really there with the people. And so that divination and maybe advice and whatever dialogue went on between the spirit world and the ancestral world and the people in those times, to honor them. And they definitely here would have had evidence of a lot of feasting on Samhain, and feasting, honoring the ancestors, leaving out plates for the ancestors and leaving out plates for the spirits, and creating a ritual all around that. So that was huge, and
Amazing.
that's still carried on today. Yeah.
Yeah. I hadn't ever thought about or tuned into the idea of it being a harnessing of power or energy like for the winter. It makes sense to me when you just said it because you're harvesting. It is like a harvest festival, right? Along with the
Yes,
fall equinox one, right? So it's like these are the harvest festivals.
exactly.
But how else would you see, or like where is that? energy coming from? Like, is it from the fire? Is it from the goddesses? You know, like where is that? How is that supernatural thinning veil able to? How are they accessing that, or how are they utilizing that?
Right. Right. Well, I don't fully know, but I know that I think the way they were interacting with that is through the landscape and through the natural world. And you know, their interactions were recorded through how they interacted with certain circles, with certain places on the land where they would gather. And that site would have been dedicated to, this time, the Samhain time. I mean, we have a few really, really powerful sites. There's one that is, there's two of them, and I get confused because there's a few of them that actually take the mantle for being the origin place of Samhain. And one of them is not far from me here. It's called the Cave of the Cats, or Owi Nagat in Irish. Yeah, it's associated with the Morrigan, who is really the war goddess. So that the darker aspect of the goddess here. And there is a tradition of slipping down into the cave, and it's right down into the womb of the earth. And whatever ritual practices were done in there around this time, they say this is where it's the gateway to hell. It's where all of those ghoulish, otherworldly figures come out at Halloween, out through the Cave of the Cats, and, you know, roam around Ireland. So this is kind of that place where they emerge from the cave. So yeah, so there would have been probably rituals of going down into that cave and really communing with the supernatural in the landscape.
Mm. And so
No.
when they say like the origins of Samhain, they're saying the origins of the pierced veil between the realms, like a portal in which those energies can interact or move through freely? Or like how would they be defining like what is that Samhain energy to them in that sense?
Well, I suppose the Samhain energy, it just is an umbrella for how they interact with the waning of the light, and with that closeness of the shadow aspects of the human psyche, maybe as well.
Yeah.
And that finding how to mediate the balance in their in life. And even speaking from now, how do these places help us integrate our shadows or face the darker parts of us, or the ghoulish, ghosty figures that may be part of our own shadow. And maybe that was part of it as well. I feel very much so. But Samhain really is, I think it's just an umbrella term, and then is attached to certain goddesses and places. Like we have another goddess, Tlachtka. I have to pronounce her name properly because it's very hard to get it. Tlachtka. Over on the east here, we have the Hill of Ward, and it's her hill, and she was a powerful druidess that went through a horrific time in terms of the patriarchal, or the masculine, trying to take her power, and she was raped, and there was a whole load of different things that happened to her. But she birthed three mythological sons, three sons on this hill, and died during childbirth. And so the power that she held and the darkness that she had to integrate within her own psyche of, being raped and what was taken from her as a woman, that was merged into the mythology of the hill. And so she's quite a pivotal figure in terms of Samhain, and also attributed to the birthplace of that ritual festival, I suppose, as well. So yeah.
Interesting. I'm hearing in these goddess stories and the shadow aspects and the dark feminine, and I'm interested if there's the dark masculine aspects too in a second. But it's echoing the Toltec tradition in Mexico, where actually one of the great ways of getting more power, also like strengthening your etheric body, so in positivity, is by alchemizing and including the shadow aspects of you. It's like bringing those up to light. Actually, like, it's integration. It gives you more energy. It's more whole. So it's interesting that in going into the like shadow death portal, creepy ghoul aspects, like we're actually getting more strength and wholeness to then, go into the true darkness of winter.
Completely. Yeah. And it makes perfect sense. Like you have to meet those parts of you, right? And I think those projections then in terms of how it's been incorporated into culture now, and even back then of dressing up and hiding the true self, putting on masks of ghoulish figures and demons and all of that kind of tradition, and witches and wizards. It was, or the origin of that really was that people were trying to distract the more malevolent spirits from entering their home, so they would dress up to hide from them, apparently. Yes. And to hide from them. But I also feel that part of that archetypal embodiment of, like, let's embody that energy so that we can work through it, so that and this was a perfect time of year for that kind of ritual play, almost, I feel.
I dig it. It's like playing out that shadow aspect, like actually bringing it into full animation.
Exactly. And people are still doing it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Getting more motivated to dress up. Just
I know.
scare off the ghouls outside my house. But okay, so there's a lot here in I'm interested in the other myths or the other sites, and how people can work with these different goddess figures. I mean, maybe if even they just hear more of the stories, they can start connecting to that. But yeah, what are some of the other sites and how are they utilized during this time?
Well, there's another site up in Loch Crew, which is an amazing burial site with mounds up there. And we have the Slieve na Chalí, which is the witches' hill, or the hag's hill.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of mythology up there, all around the crone aspect. So the hag, the witch, the unattractive, supernatural kind of ghoulish woman, right? That is that presents herself in the land here at this time of year. Like, this is the time when we call her the Cailleach Beara, or the Cailleach. She originates from the Beara Peninsula down in the south of Ireland, or so they say, through hundreds and hundreds of years of stories, right, and folklore. But she really is that dying aspect of the feminine, of Mother Earth, that waning aspect she comes alive, I feel. This time of year, the Samhain portal really connects with that, and then into the winter. So she's that crone energy, she's that wise, ancient, primordial feminine energy, and all that's incorporated around that, the loss of going into elder years for the feminine, all that corresponds with in the actual natural process of nature dying at this time of year.
Beautiful. Very cool.
Yeah. So she's in there. So she's called hag, witch, all the different terms. But yeah, so this is her time. So that's really, I feel like that's the energy that wants to be spoken to here on the land. And that's how people engaged with the Cailleach. There were so many stories around that. And so that interconnectivity of the people and nature.
Yeah. Yes.
And the natural cycles. Yeah.
Yeah, because it is the earth waning, and it is those aspects of us, and the stages of life. I mean, it's all interconnected.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Interesting. Any other stories, or things that you've stumbled upon as you've been exploring?
Well, there's some cute little traditions that
actually
in Ireland.
Some cute traditions.
Yeah. So kind of part of like Irish folk tradition, we have this tradition on Halloween. Well, it probably originated, I don't know, it originated here, but the bobbing for apples, right? I don't know, do you do that over there?
Yeah.
It's like you do that, okay.
Yeah.
But the mythological association with the apples and all that's held in the apple groves with the apple tree and that immortal fruit. It is an immortal fruit. So yeah, so that tradition here was huge. There was also a tradition of baking, and in the baked goods you would place a gold ring or a little stick. And there was one other thing, I can't remember what it is right now, but the one that really I remember from my childhood was, we call it the barn brack, and it's like a fruit cake that's traditionally made at this time of year. And like, you're cutting through the barn brack, and if someone gets the gold ring, like, that's huge. That's a huge deal, because it's a promise of forthcoming marriage. So love traditions that were very much interwoven around Samhain, around those times.
Sweet.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember that. I loved receiving the ring. Was huge. It was such a thrill. So
Oh.
yeah.
And
So
were you like 5? It's like,
oh.
yeah, you're about to be betrothed. Sorry, I just had to.
Yeah, I was.
And then my imagination was like, this is risky. This like bread with a ring in it. And then you're like, oh, they cut it. I was like, oh, okay. Because that's
Yeah.
so cool though. So
Yeah.
it was like, I don't know. I guess I associate those more like love energies to like Beltane, like Beltane, and versus like a love token like at the death portal. But I guess because it is the Celtic New Year, like there is
Yes.
a newness, like it's the death before the dawn kind of an energy.
It is, but it's also, I mean, if you think about it, it's Scorpio energy. It's passion, it's fire, it's like totally that love energy. And it's also a time of gathering, and of, you know, dressing up and being in that space with your tribes or whatever, and with your people. So I think that fiery scorpionic passion comes through at that time. So yeah, what a great initiator of, like, you know, praying for a beloved to come in at that time, you know, in the future year, possibly, from that point.
Yeah,
I feel
any of the solstices and cross quarter points being times of manifestation.
there's a lot of purification traditions as well, of, you know, throwing holy water in the four corners of the house, keeping the doors closed. There's different traditions, but food was central, and also the purifying, so that the bad spirits weren't coming into the house. And we've a couple of mythological figures, like the puka, which is like this kind of scary looking supernatural, you know, ghoul, who would come and take the children, you know, in their beds and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of stories associated with the puka as well at this time of year.
Jesus, like talk about nightmares.
I know.
You're like a little kid and you're like, yeah, you're gonna be taken. Like they're like, what the heck?
I know. Yeah, we'd be told that when we were small as well. You know, if you
What
don't
was
get
the
to
purpose? What was like what
just
like why how was that helpful?
just it wasn't helpful. This is the Irish psyche we're talking about, Bridget.
They're just preparing you. They're like, yeah, we don't know what's gonna happen to you. You might disappear through a portal, and so we just have to prepare you. You
Exactly.
might go with the fairies for 100 years.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. So, what are some of the ways? Because I know them because I've talked to you. But what are some of the fleshed out like different practices that people could utilize? You just mentioned like the holy water, but I don't think people necessarily know what that like fully entails. Or like what are some nice rituals that people could utilize during this time?
Okay. Well, yeah, I think, because you work with the waters as well, I think that's such a great thing to do at this time of year, because the veil is so much thinner. Obviously, then there's a lot more in the collective sphere of energy and spirits. So I think giving a cleanse to your home in a really beautiful way. So doing the physical stuff of cleaning and just sorting through, and maybe putting to rest the items or the clothing that you wore in the previous season, like some sort of ritualizing the closing or the leaving behind of summer, if depending on where you're based, obviously, and just, you know, yeah, making that a ritual of let's reconfigure my home a little bit. Let's bring in these elements of the winter time of year, and what that could represent for you. So you could make a beautiful little water remedy with some herbs, or just collecting spring water. And like the Irish here, we used to always have a little font, a little water carrier just inside the front door of the house. Now it's kind of a Christian tradition, but you could make that your little blessing point as you enter into your house. You
Oh.
have a little water, or even an enclosed little jar of water that you use to bless yourself coming, or purify yourself as you come from the world back into your sacred space and into your home. That's a lovely way of just ritualizing coming home. And then really just you can take that water and bless it, and intone and intend any energies of purification, anything that you would like to call in for the coming season, and spritz that around the house, put it into the four corners of the house, and really just ask for the energy to be balanced and lifted and protected in your space. Simple.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Simple but
Yeah.
profound.
Yeah. It really works.
Yeah. I did that to my whole property after I had you on my Soleil Collective masterclass with the elements. And so we had talked about that, and I did it to my whole property. It was so powerful. It's such a powerful energy.
I think people don't realize that's that baseline elemental magic is there's so much in it, and it works. So it's just really believing and intending with clarity and with heart on what you want to call into your space. But yeah, I would like that. Yeah. I'm just trying to think if there's what other rituals. Well, a little altar with autumnal fruits, like bringing in apples and making a little plate really for the ancestors in this coming season is a really good way of honoring the spirits. And some people leave that outside their home, out on the doorstep. Just you can tune into what that looks like for you, but definitely some sort of offering for the spirits, for the spirit world.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then what about fire? We talked about that, some kind of like fire ceremony, fire ritual.
Oh, I love being outdoors at a big bonfire and just getting the drum and gathering your people, and or even if it's yourself, finding a way to do that is just so powerful. So if there's a way to do that, to get onto a beach or into a natural place and make a little contained fire, and just really working with the element of fire in the way that feels safe for you, just offering whatever you need onto that fire, and then receiving the blessing of the fire spirits from there. Keep it simple, really.
Yeah.
Can be very simple, but I think gathering with people, drumming, singing, stories, poetry, whatever. Yeah.
And what about with the goddesses? How do you work with the goddesses? And are there any male like characters? We got like the Grim Reaper over here, so I'm just wondering if there's any translations
of male characters. Well, I don't know if the puka is a male character. I would see the puka as our male. And then we have a banshee who's people see the banshee before they're going to die. She's this, etheric looking wispy woman that appears, and there's so much documented evidence of people seeing her along roads and byways over here. But yeah, the goddesses, I think that's such a unique thing for people. I don't really work with a specific goddess, other than I do work with Bridget.
You do.
And Bridget is our fire keeper. So, and Bridget's an all-powerful force here in the landscape in Ireland. So I would work with her through most of the seasons. All of the seasons, really, for the water and the holy wells, the fire keeping and tending, all of it, because she's powerful. So she's my go-to.
I love it. That's awesome.
And perfectly fitting, Miss Bridget.
I'm just playing around. My mom didn't know what she was doing, but she kind of did. Yeah. She did and she didn't. Awesome. I love those. Those are beautiful pieces. I want to add in case people don't know, or it's a nice reminder, why these sites were astrologically connected to the rising of the Samhain sun, or like Beltane, or I mean it's so precise. Like, what do you see is the reason and the significance of putting these sites in certain places and alignments?
Well, I think that there's probably many different reasons with depending on the land space, depending on the clans or the tribes that were living in those places and how they worked with the fertility of land in a particular place, because that was really that dance with the cosmic forces in terms of the solar energy penetrating the land. So the solar masculine penetrating the womb of Mother Earth and bringing in that solar energy and storing it possibly in the earth for fertility for the coming year or whatever. So there was a lot of that happening. And also I feel like the light coming in, particularly at Samhain, to really transition any earthbound spirits probably that or lingering earthbound spirits and ancestors that hadn't walked the bridge home, so that they would need to be brought along through the solar principle home. So a lot of that, but fertility, anchoring those energies, those cosmic forces into the land for probably a lot of different reasons that we're not privy to in these days, you know, capacities that people have forgotten because of the intimate nature and dance of the stars and the earth and the people who had that knowledge and wisdom of how to harness those energies and to work with that in profound ways that hopefully we're remembering in these times, you know, that we'll get back to working in those ways with the natural forces and the natural elements.
Amazing. Okay, beautiful. Yeah. That was a great answer.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I like, I never thought of them as transit portals, you know, for the undead and like different pieces. Like that's really cool. I mean, the science of this stuff is just extraordinary. That's why whenever I'm talking about ancestors in the past, like it's just like, oh yeah, they were primitive little people, you know, walking around. It's like, nah.
we just really do not know.
We really don't know. It's very naive to assume as we learn more and more and dive back into the past.
I'm learning that myself. We've taken a lot of liberties with narratives around who people were, and there's still that happening because we don't know for sure. But yeah, definitely we're we've a lot to learn from our ancestors for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, so anything else on Samhain before we transition to herb worlds?
No, but let me ask you about your traditions for Halloween.
My tradition for Halloween has started. It came through. Oh man, over a decade ago when I was in Los Angeles. Once I opened to the truth that there's more beyond the five senses and open to the interdimensional realms, then Samhain could actually be present in my life. Like I could like you have to say yes to the otherworldly for it to actually come in. And so once I did that in my early 20s, oh man, it was like I opened this like crazy portal. And what I have always felt come in, which I think maybe I've said to you before, is that my cross-connecting lives to like super magical witchy folk comes in, and it's like I don't want it to sound like some weird possession or something, but there's a really strong parallel and echo to where like I'm in full communication with that past simultaneous like self that's this like herbalist witchy like interdimensional, you know, woman, and then I am there for her and I get to play out certain things that she didn't because it wasn't safe. And like I would go to the store and I would like almost like channel her, and like I would pick up stuff that I didn't even know what it was like in the day. Like it was like, oh, here's some burdock root and some dandelion leaves, and like I'm like, I don't even know what this is, and I don't know what these herbs are, and I would just like I'd be compelled to do these things. And it's like she kind of guided me or like ushered me into the truth that like this is also a part of my theme in this life, is just like my deep love of the mystical and the supernatural, natural and the magical. So I don't know, I've been very guided by her and like those energies of the past in me, in my lineage, that are just like so strongly witchy. It's like such a strong dominant energy that it looks different, you know, all the time, but herbs, I think, there's a huge part of it, and then it looks different. every year, but I just really get into it to the point where I don't even dress up or go out anymore. I'm just like so like, oh yeah, it's time for ritual and magic, you know? I get super into
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
Yeah,
I love that. I
yeah.
love that. And for you then in Sedona, like do you find connecting with the kind of the dark, because there's so much light in Sedona, because it's, it's just, but it is fire. Like, what do you harness particularly in Sedona, or can you harness for this time of year? Like, what
It's
really works for you in that?
it's tricky. I really have to work with the trees. Like I really have to go into the forests and like the dying trees and like the big like freaking cottonwood
Yes.
huge elders and stuff. That's really where I start to feel it, and in the mountains and in the canyon. Cuz
Yes.
just like out in the desert it doesn't resonate or like come through the same way. Like it isn't a Samhain portal here. Like
Yeah.
that's just not the energy. This year there's an opportunity to go to a private hot spring that has very deep like dark and beautiful feminine energy, like,
Oh,
and so I'm like, I'm going there, we're going to the waters and just going to this interdimensional portal, so that's what I'm doing.
oh, perfect. Bring me with you.
I will. I will.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Gorgeous. Oh, yeah.
thanks for asking.
Oh, yeah. Gorgeous.
Okay, so magical herbs.
Herbs. Okay.
Herbs, it's time for the
Herbs.
herbs.
Herbs. That sounds so much better. Herbs. Herbs.
Herbs.
Herbs.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, I wanted this to be more fun and conversational because Mara, like right there in that moment, I was like, I think we're just having a phone call. I don't even know that we're recording right now. So, okay, so the herb inspiration came because one, as you can see with the theme of the podcast during October, I am very into this magical realm. We had like the spells, we're doing the Samhain, and like the herbs had to be a part of this conversation. And both Mara and I over this year have taken separately like herb courses.
Yeah.
Like separate, we didn't even talk about it, and we're like in deep immersive herbal programs. So it's just really fun, and we've started to get in that because we are in the middle of crafting two different courses together on elementals and like deep interdimensional mystical, like all the things you've ever wanted from me. Like we're gonna do this together. But we started getting into the herbs, and we're like, wow, there's a lot here that we both really like. We could just go off forever on just plants as major allies. And so today we could do, we'll probably do like a whole podcast on just like herbs, but for right now we're going to do our best to narrow it down to our top 5 magical herbs that we can utilize during this particular magical time. You can use any time and whenever you're wanting to do rituals or like be in this energy, like it can catalyze kind of this interdimensional energy all the time. So that's what we're going to be exploring now. And so I'm really curious to ask you, what did you choose for your top 5?
Well, I seem to always have the same ones in rotation. So, number one that I have is Rosemary,
Oh, yes.
which is always, I mean, she's just unbelievable. But Rosemary really is particularly associated with Samhain here. And
Really?
yeah, and it's such an ancient herb. Like there's written evidence of it being used in cultures, going way back. But here in Ireland, it was used as, I think, funerary. So really part of the funerary possessions and just around the body, that kind of thing, but for remembrance and for clarity of vision, and really for evoking protection as well. So she's a huge protective ally.
Yeah.
Huge. So there's a lot around keeping rosemary, outside your front door or, in the periphery of the house, really to cleanse and protect from those malevolent energies at this time of year. So she's a huge one.
Amazing.
And yeah. Did you have her?
I had her. She was on my top 5 list.
Of course. Of Of course she was.
She
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
I didn't know those extra pieces though. That's really interesting. I had my more profound experience with her in my early 20s again, when like this witch portal opened for me, and I drank rosemary tea, and I like kind of tripped for like hours, like because
Right.
yeah, like it's really strong. I don't necessarily like think that it's a good tea herb by any means. It's like kind of toxic and stuff.
It is. Well, I found written evidence on it being used as the tea this time of
Really?
year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I haven't really used her in a tea. I actually use her as a smudge. So I'll collect the fresh material and just bind it up quickly, because when rosemary dries, it just goes everywhere.
Yeah.
So so burning as a smudge or drinking as the tea.
Amazing.
So I'm going to try the tea, but maybe it can be graduated with something, or just weakened a
Yeah.
little bit.
It might be nice mixed with something like a lavender or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or actually let it go cold and spray it around the house.
Ooh. Look, you're getting all these ideas.
I'm
I
like,
love it. Oh my gosh.
oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so rosemary was on my top 5. Okay, okay, what's number 2?
What's number 2? Number 2 for me is yarrow. Yarrow, it just like it's such a witchy herb, but it's
So
it's protective. It's really there's a lot of folklore over here around it being used for love spells, for protection from the evil eye, from from any of those malevolent spirits. So yarrow used in varying ways. Like I've some dried yarrow that I harvested kind of at Lunasa time. I made a flower remedy with yarrow for the coming season, and I also have it dried around the house. So I've some inside my front door, I've some on my altar, and I'm drinking yarrow tea at the moment, actually, because it's one that was popping up for me. So yarrow, yes.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yarrow is also on my top 5.
Of course it is.
I liked doing it this way, because then
Okay.
we're just seeing what's happening. But
Yeah.
I didn't really know yarrow until this year, because I got to harvest it all over. And it's most herbalists' favorite. That's what I've noticed. It's like every herbalist's favorite is usually yarrow, and I'm like, okay, well, this deserves my attention to look at. But when I really had a profound moment with it this year was a quick little story, but it shows the pronounced magical nature of it that really like brought it home for me. Was one of my family members had a really bad accident, and because this family member is very young, I had permission to be an energetic double and heal for hours. Like I pretty much just was like, I will take on anything for this kid to help. And it was really intense. But I was like, I'd rather me process it, because I can process it better than he can at this time. And then he can like do more healing. Oh, now you know this him. Anyways, and so it was really intense, and I was traveling. So I was like on a plane, like on shuttles, like while I was doing this really, really deep work. And by the time I got home, I was a mess. Like I had a headache, I had a stomach ache. I was just like, I couldn't even stand up because I had taken on so much, which was okay, like, because I knew that I could move through it and clear it. And I was like, okay, now it's too much. I'm like ready to like transmute this, release this. I can't hold any more of it either. And nothing was coming to mind. Like I was just like, I'm a mess. And it was get in the bath and put some yarrow in there. And I'm not saying like I steeped this amazing, tea, and then I poured it in, that it was like really dark, and I like broke some twigs in half, with the flowers, and threw it in there, just like a small amount. It wasn't even anything. And then I just got in, and within seconds, everything went away. Everything went away. It was so crazy. It was so powerful that I was just like, oh my God, like praise yarrow, like praise yarrow. Like I had never experienced a plant or like a, you know, a permission slip, like a, not even like a stone or anything that had like shifted the energy as quickly and as pronounced as that was.
Oh my. That's just amazing. I can feel it. Now I want to just go and run a bath and just get in with all of my yarrow. And I think I will after this. That's potent.
Yeah. So that was, I know that it was a little bit of a longer story and maybe kind of intense, but it's worthy to note, you know, that these things aren't just like, I think sometimes when we think magical, especially maybe in like American terms, I don't think as much over here, but like magical is like, yeah, like, woo, it feels good, or oh, I'm just gonna trip, like some like crazy psychedelic. But
Yeah.
there is this like potent protection or like potent, you know, availability of support and alliance that can be had with these plants.
Oh, for they're beings. They're
Yeah.
absolutely magical. Yeah, and they will initiate you, right? Like they'll just start talking to you, like Yarrow did for you, and like let's put
Mm-hmm.
in, let's put in a few twigs in. With did you even did you have an intention getting into the bath, or
Nope.
did you just no
I just said
just
I'm done. Like I just said I can't, like I like for this family member and for me, like we can't hold it anymore. I can't hold it. Like I've done, and I had full support as I was doing everything. So it's not like I was doing everything. It was just I was being the vessel of it. Um
yeah?
but I was just like I'm done. Like I'm ready to like let's let this go. And then it just moved.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you. You've just given me a transmission that I need as well right now. So I'm going to work with her in that way. Great.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So Yarrow. All right.
Great. So we've Yarrow. Do you want to do number 3? Because we seem to be aligning on.
Okay, this number 3 you probably have too. I'm just gonna give it a
Okay.
try. I'm just gonna give it a try. Mugwort.
Oh, stop.
You have it,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes. And at my number 3.
And at your number 3.
Yeah.
Oh, mine's not at my number 3. Okay, why Mugwort for you?
So mugwort for Samhain time, for visioning, for dream work, because the astral plane and the veil is so liminal, that access to our dreams, that access to being able to divine future timelines, all of that. So I feel mugwort really opens that space for me anyway. And I work a lot with the oil before I go to sleep, and just on the soles of my feet and a little bit on my crown. And yeah, it really makes my dreams a lot more lucid, and the recall is better in the morning as well. So for
Oh,
documenting, yeah, yeah, and
amazing.
ancestral connection as well. I
Mm,
feel,
yeah.
yeah,
Amazing. That's I've never used the
yeah.
oil. I've only used like the tea.
Oh,
Um
lovely.
so the oil sounds like a lovely addition.
I like it. I like working with it in oil form. It's like it's a potent hit, and I will use that doing ceremony as well. Any sort of fire ceremonies, any sort of invocation work or ritual work, I'll do little dots of the oil on maybe the back of the occiput
Mhm.
for protection as well, and opening up that gateway as well. So yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
Yeah. That's a
What about
really
you?
that's a really good one.
Yeah.
I've only mostly done tea.
Mm-hmm.
When I had, you know, the road trips up to Shasta back in the day, you know,
Yes.
those routes
Yes.
up the California coast and such. I would always collect it and then make tea whenever I was camping. So like night after night, I would drink the mugwort tea. I was just, you know, super into it, and
Oh,
I would have it was a reoccurring entry point into a journey, you know, into the dream world. For me, through a
yeah.
tree. I know it's more
Right.
traditionally seen as a flying herb, you know, like that it helps you like fly in dreams. But I've never
Right.
had that. I like go into like a descent like through the trees. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I would too, actually. That would be my go-to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then here in Arizona, we don't have mugwort. We have Artemisia, which is in the same family, and
Yep.
it's different. It's different. It doesn't have. It's still very magical, but it's not the same kind of there's a certain European magic stream that I like fill in my genetics, and it doesn't hit that same
Yeah.
chord of frequency in me. But it's also wonderful to use and super good. I use it for smudging all the time.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
Great.
mugwort.
Mugwort. Thank you, Mugwort.
Yes,
We
thank you,
love you.
mugwort. Okay, number
Yep.
4.
I have number 4, Vervain.
Okay, I don't have Vervain.
Okay.
So this is good.
We got a new one. Yay!
So why Vervain?
Vervain. Well, it's another protective one. It's really there's a lot of magical evidence of it being used for protection against witchcraft and any malevolent forces, and really that I think there's huge body of work in the herbal field that I haven't totally dived into around Vervain being like one of the major magical herbs of ancient times.
Wow.
So I think it feels like such a heavy hitter. I just drink the tea actually, but it's a relaxant. It feels just very nervine, settling, and kind of feels like your field just gets coated in this kind of protective balm of settled energy. That's how I feel when I drink her. So yeah, I felt for this time of year, absolutely feels like a powerful protector, being out there with all the stuff that's whirling around. Just
Nice.
staying calm in the eye of the storm.
That's a good one. Yeah, settle you in, move you through. Yeah.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And I feel like very flowing too. There's like is there a watery energy to that one?
I think so. I'm not sure. Yeah. But very settling. It just really roots me it just calms everything down when I drink it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We have a mutual friend who I'm not going to name because I name him on every podcast episode because we're just like talking about all this relevant stuff. And this person was talking about how I think it was Vervain is used for like crazy love spell magic.
Probably. Oof.
Where it was like if you take Vervain, like you will call in love, but it might be like not like the right love, but like you will attract it. But it's like, yeah, it like ups your attraction availability or something.
Oh.
So I think it's in the I think it's in the love spell category as well.
Wow. Well, you see, there we go. So we're really weaving in the love, the Scorpio passion, all of that stuff. Like, so yeah, it was, Samhain and love.
Yeah. Interesting.
Bring it on.
And it is interesting that we're seeing common themes because it's like, well, I would like to ask you in a minute what your definition of magical is, but it is interesting that there's protection like inherent because one, they're entering you into other worlds, like they're very otherworldly, all the ones that we've described, plants, like for journeying, for seeing, for all these different things, for manifesting, but inherent in the going through portals, you need to be incubated in a certain frequency, aka protection, right?
Yes.
So it's interesting that came up in tandem with magic.
Yes.
What does magic mean to you?
It's a tricky word. and I use it, but magic to me is really the otherworldly connotations, the otherworldly connections to that which is not the mundane reality, and how I work with the elements in a way to craft my experience of reality in the right way. That's how I would connect with it. It's not a word that I use too much, so it pops in with you obviously, but because it has such a negative connotation as well, I think, and it means different things to different people, and but yeah, to me, it's just really working with your own innate elemental energies and capacities,
Mm,
these supernatural capacities that we all have.
yeah,
And yeah,
I like
yeah,
it. Yeah,
yeah.
I can feel even in the morphogenetics how it would feel different if I was living on the East Coast. I probably wouldn't use magical that much. Or if I was like living in Glastonbury, I'd probably eliminate it from my language. Just be like, it's already so strong. It's just, you know.
Yes.
But being in the Western United States where there's not a precedence of negativity around that word, I think that's why
Mm,
I can use it more freely. So thanks for using it with me
yeah,
here today.
of course.
Uh,
No problem.
okay.
Oh,
So my number 4, right?
yes, oh, please. Yes.
Okay, my
What you
number
got?
4 is lavender.
Yeah.
Is that your number 5?
No, I don't have
Yes.
it.
Okay. Good. Good. We got some different ones. Sorry if that broke someone's eardrums. I keep on forgetting that we're on mic. I haven't recorded anything in 3 weeks because I had a tooth surgery because I was trying to look like a ghoul for Halloween, which I accomplished. So I'm a little bit still in the yeah, ethereal realms, as well as we're doing video recording and audio, so I apologize if it's not perfectly suited for your ears. Okay, so lavender, um I know that it's one of those that is very common. Like it kind of has like it's just so like, oh, it's so common and it's so classic as a magical herb, but also just as like an herb, And I think some of these fall into that category where people would be like, yeah, it's just rosemary, it's just thyme, it's just these different ones. And it's kind of the opposite is true. It doesn't mean that it's common or mundane. It means that it's worked. Like it means that
Yes.
it stood the test of time. Like of the I don't know millions of plants on the planet. Like it's like for generations people keep planting that one in their garden.
Yes.
And that's what really came forward to me like last night as I was finalizing my top 5 is I was like every like kind of witchy herb garden, but also like probably just women's gardens had rosemary, it had lavender, and
Yeah.
um and I like it for its healing qualities, for its soothing
Mhm.
qualities. It does feel protective. It does feel like visionary and like altering as well, but in a very like gentle way. And it also has this energy. I've been using it for. I used it this summer a lot for grief.
Oh, yeah.
I had a hydrosol that I would spray, and just like
Yes.
anytime I had like excess emotions, my heart's been like through a washing machine the past 2 years, and
Yeah.
which is amazing. And it's like yeah, open to the depths of that cave you were talking about in Ireland.
Oh,
That's where I've been living,
yeah.
but in that like the lavender really has helped me yeah, move through that, like alchemize the darkness. Like I feel
Mm,
like that's what, and like the grief and the sadness and like that movement, that shifting from those kind of depressed states or those challenged wound states back into courage, back into light, back into healing. So I do feel like a very alchemizing energy with lavender.
mm.
Particularly through the scent. I really did like the spray. That was the first time I had used it in that way. The tea is always fantastic. Um, so that's how I've used it. How have you used
Oh,
lavender? What do
I
you?
love that. I love it. Like, yeah. Oh, lavender is just my all-time favorite. I've it just constantly on the go. And the hydrosol for sure. That just which heals everything. Any little burns or scrapes, anything. Just the minute I put lavender on any of those, just so deep, it just immediately goes to the wound and starts to
Mm,
re-knit that wound. So
mm,
I think for sure the grief piece, definitely. Um, and yeah, thanks for bringing her in actually, because I feel that now because my father passed at the Samhain portal, and so it's a really personal time for me. And I
mm.
think Yeah, lavender is like feels just so she's a balm for the soul. Like
Mm,
really, really that balm that just that higher octave. She does move you through into the higher octave of the heart for sure.
mm,
I feel that. Oh yeah.
yeah.
Thanks for bringing that one in.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the balm of our time.
Oh, for sure.
And
Yeah.
every time. Like, think about that. I mean, she's been used forever. It's
I know.
like there's a
I know.
reason. So I think encouraging that, even though it's not maybe it's like exotic or like special, it's like it
Yeah.
works.
Yeah. No, we
Works.
go back to the ones that work all
She's
the
just your
time.
best friend there, through everything. So
Oh, yeah. Love it.
yes.
Love it.
Okay, number 5.
Okay, the last one. Right. Well, I had a little bit of a conversation about this one on before I came onto the call, and she was like, "Oh yeah, it's me." I'm like, no, but it's actually lemon balm, which is one of my favorites, right? And the minute I smell lemon balm, like she's been a go-to for me for the last few years, a deep healer of bringing
Mm,
in the light when there was no light available. When
mm,
through grief, through times of hardship, always that like light. So I feel like that light of lemon balm, and also that bee, the connection with the bees, with those the energies of summer, I think is a perfect one to have in this time of year
mm.
to really help soothe the shock to the system that is going into the darkness of the year.
Beautiful. Nice. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah,
That's a
yeah.
good one. I had a feeling that was on your list.
Of course you did. I know. I know. Yeah. Yeah.
And isn't it interesting because lemon balm is one of the more common ones as well. Like, and
It is.
you learned a lot of herbs over your time. I mean, I probably got introduced to at least 100 that I met in person that I studied this year.
Yes.
And like of any of them, it's like there it is, just the one that's sitting in your backyard. It was in grandma's garden.
Totally. Well, they keep calling
Yeah.
because your relationship building with an herb, with the plant ally, and
Yeah.
that relationship can span a lifetime. So, like, yeah, for absolutely, I'm going back to the ones that keep calling me all the time and listening to
Yeah.
what they are, even if I feel like I should be expanding the repertoire a little bit. Um, they call you at the right time, I believe, and for the right periods of your life. That's what I'm personally experiencing as I'm learning more,
Yeah. If a
really.
listener has no idea, they're just like, I don't know where I should go, what I should do, like what would you recommend to them is the first relationship building, with one of these herbs we've named or with maybe another one that they've seen before or heard of or they just have no idea. What would you suggest?
In particular for this time of year, in
Yeah.
how they
Yeah,
engage.
we'll do this time of year. Yes.
Okay, okay. Well, I'm all about the smudging, you see. So that's and working with burning the plant material. I
Mm.
love that for clearing my space and for just clearing ritually myself. So
Yeah.
well, I would just go and see what's around you. If there's something speaking before the plants start to die out, is there a particular plant in your locality, in your neighborhood, that calls you, you know,
Yeah.
f- really, and do it at this time of year when nature is starting to wane and go to sleep. So it's time to find that one that and set that intention of show me in my locality or in my home or wherever around me, bring me to a plant ally that is unique for me for moving into the winter, and
Mm.
listen to that.
Yeah.
Really listen to that. It's not about what anyone else recommends. It's really your unique relationship with the land you live upon, the locality you live, developing that. So set the intention, create a little space for yourself to do that, and then go out on a walk and see.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then it can be your friend. Like
exactly.
through the challenging times, it can just like call out when you don't even, in those unexpected moments of whatever you're experiencing and it's just like, I'm here for you, and you have it
Yes.
ready versus like Well, it does work that way for me. I thought I got bit by a black widow. I thought I did. Because there's
Oof.
one that lives outside my door, and I'm letting her stay there because she's powerful. And I got a spider bite out right there. And I was like, oh my God, I got bit by a black widow. And I know the herbs, or I know exactly what to do. And I'm like, oh, I'll cross the street, get a nopal cactus, get some artemisia. And I'm like, I knew what I needed to do. But in most cases, people don't necessarily have, well, often the medicine
No,
is right outside your door, but it's better to like have that already in your arsenal, for lack of a not a poetic word, but in your like repertoire, like of what you're used to, so that when it is time, it's right there and ready for you.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Have them there. Oh, you're lucky. I'm just
I was
saying.
kind of excited about it.
Oof.
I know. Well, not in a way that I'm trying to manifest it. We'll see. But
No.
like I'm just in a place where I'm like I'm accepting of the scorpions. I'm accepting of the black
Yes.
widows. I'm accepting of the snakes. Like that is the medicine of the land that I'm on, and I'm like,
Yes.
yes, like you have a place here, and like I'm with you. Like those are my other medicines, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
what a perfect medicine for Samhain as well.
Yeah.
The spider medicine. Like,
I know a
oh,
baby tarantula was on my door yesterday.
oh
And then
gosh.
there was a big one that was crossing the road and it got hit and I was really upset. So, yeah, there's a lot of creepy crawler medicines.
Well, my first time to see a tarantula was living with you, Bridget, in Sedona. And I nearly freaked out completely.
It was the best.
Yeah, yeah.
I love the Mara freakouts when they're like
Oh,
when it's actually not a big deal, cuz then I can just giggle cuz it's like all going to be okay. Yeah. Anyways.
I grew and I learned. Yeah.
Yes, you're
Yes.
solid now. You've got it.
Yes,
I'll
I
I'll
do.
I'll ship you one.
Oh, thanks.
I'm just kidding. Okay, my fifth.
Oh, yes, please.
I'm kind of cheating. I like couldn't follow my own rules on this one because something came forward, which I feel like you'll be able to speak to as well. Which is what been going into a little bit, but there's quite a few just like like came through as the threshold gatekeeper portal protectors, like the ones that are in every, like unique to every region, that just happen to be just standing right there at these liminal places in nature. So certain ones like in Hawaii, because both of us lived there,
Yes.
like the tea leaf, right? Which is like the super incredible, like protective, holy, you
Oof.
know, plant that is on the four corners
Yes.
of every property to like for protection, but also blessing. It's the entry gate of all of these like springs or these certain hikes, like when you get to these temple sites, like
Yes.
it's always right there. So it's like that
Oof.
that one, but there's always one like in every area, like here
Yeah.
in the desert, like we have well, it could be like datura, which I've been loving a lot, or like certain cactus. Like so for me,
Yeah.
I have San Pedro at all the different entrances of like my house, and like utilizing like
Oof.
that is like the guardian. And then sage is in Artemisia, usually is at those gateway thresholds as well.
Right.
Yarrow if you're in like more of the mountain climates. So I just wanted to kind of like give a shout out, like a
Oh,
real to those that are like the keepers of like the sacred portal sites, and like and that have allowed us in and that allow us in, and
yes.
also make sure the other things don't get in too.
Mm.
And just, yeah, honoring those that hold that purpose was really strong for me in this conversation of the magical herbs.
Oh, yeah, they're powerful. And thank you for helping me to spark that, because I had one that I hadn't written down, which is Hawthorn, which is
Oof.
our gateway, otherworldly guardian. And
Mm.
so sorry, I'm just acknowledging Hawthorn because yeah, probably Hawthorn should have been my number one there for herbs.
Mm.
So just weaving her in as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, powerful beings.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yes.
thank
So
you.
there we have it. I hope that there
There we
were
have
some
it.
of these herbs, or just like, I feel like maybe even through just like listening to our excitements around the plant kingdom, it'll like spark a little something for you to try, one or more of these out, or to listen, like Mara said, with intention and find the one that's perfect for you. And yeah, they really can be amazing guides, through these transitionary times of season. I think that they could also be, yeah, for any seasonal transition, or like life transition, or all those pieces. I think that all of these herbs can be relevantly useful for. So
Mm,
it's exciting.
definitely.
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
Mara, thank you so much for having this conversation and being here with me and everyone.
Oh, thank you. And to everyone, blessed Samhain, and into the deeper part of the year, highest blessings to everyone who listens to this.
And I want to, for those that didn't listen to our episode 6, so if you want to go listen to get a little bit more with us together, episode 6 is there. But I do want you to say how people can contact you or work with you.
Okay, great. I am on Instagram, even though I don't want to be on these social media platforms. Celtic Heart Healing is my Instagram handle, and my website is celtichearthealing.com. So I do offer one-on-one remote sessions online, which I'm currently doing once or twice a week. So yeah, there we go.
She's amazing. Like, they're incredible. I'm
Thank
a
you.
really big fan. So thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Mara, and thank you everyone for listening, and enjoy this Samhain transition portal. Bye-bye.